I saw you, yes, contacted S&S Electric to recheck the outlet. They did some more work on it, and we got billed for more work on it. And, but it's got problems, and Jesse wants them to go out and check it again.
All that static.
Somebody's making a lot of noise.
Let's see. I'm not seeing who it is.
So
Sure,
here's what happened on that action item. Several weeks ago, I'd sent out something to S&S about repairing it. They claimed they had repaired it. Eric checked it and said there's still no power at the dock. He and I went down there a week or so ago with one of my meters and we checked it out. Sure enough, there's no power at the dock. I checked it out again today just to make sure that there was no errors in the way we were treating the meter, which really shouldn't be that way, with a drop light, and yet there's no power at the dock. I checked the breaker up inside the gated area, and the GFI switch doesn't look like it's working. So basically, it's the same problem that we've had for 3 months. They haven't solved it yet. So I sent a email to Pete, the guy at SNX, for a copy to Eric and to Jay. That's how Jay knows about this. Telling him what Eric and I did and ask them to fix it. That's all I can do is just keep asking. I don't understand why this is such a problem for them. They're supposed to be experts in this field. They've done a lot of docks in the past, but for whatever reason, not being successful with what should be a fairly simple installation.
Jeff, didn't originally the problem it was that the GSI box was filled with water or something like that?
Well, they disputed that. Although every time Eric and I went there, it wasn't a GFI box, it was the receptacle on the pole was full of water. So I asked them repeatedly, why don't you just put a cap on the pole? And they eventually actually did that, Pierce. But that's not the entire problem. There's something else going on. But they've been very resistant to our requests and very argumentative with regards to what the problems may be. And it's very disturbing to have to deal with people like this when they're supposedly experts in the field.
Should we look at getting another contractor in to look at it?
I think it's kind of, you know, we're in pretty deep with them. I think they need to continue to work on it and solve the problem. If in fact they can't by the end of this year, then maybe next year we'll bring in another contractor. I don't know how we handle the money that we've spent with S&S already, if we haven't had satisfaction. I mean, the bills have been paid, so I think we're kind of stuck.
Have all the bills been
Both
paid?
bills?
I think all the bills that they sent to us have been paid. The latest one was like $176. I think that Sherm paid last time. So, and that was $100 that they claimed they solved the problem, but they did not. So we'll see what happens.
The newest bill was for $722, Jess.
What?
I guess I didn't
Yeah,
see
I
that
thought
one.
that was an awful lot.
Yeah.
That's almost
My
as much
husband
as they paid for
agrees
the
with
whole
that.
So, I guess I didn't see that bill, or if I did, I forgot all about it. I've been kind of busy doing a lot of stuff, so hard to keep
I
up.
don't recall seeing that bill. The last bill I paid, I believe, without looking back, was like $176, $179.
Right. Just this week we got this one. This one, it came September 7th. For the additional work you have to do, put the caps on.
Okay, so
it's attached. It's in that document I sent out just before the meeting.
Well, you have leverage, Jess. You have leverage.
Let's not pay that. Don't pay that.
really, guys, I want to try to encourage you to do a couple things for me. Look at stuff well in advance of the meeting. Like, there's no reason for us to sit here and go through the meeting minutes from last month. They've been posted for 3 weeks, so read them. And don't send out something just before the meeting. You know, I can't absorb all that stuff so quickly. Send it out in advance. If you got it, for Pete's sake, send it out.
Okay.
It just seems like 4 electricians for 2 hours to do. It seems like a lot.
Right.
I love the use of apprentice hours.
Yeah,
It's obviously a training schedule too.
it's awful high to me.
Wow.
And having a husband who does electrical work, I think it's high.
Okay, so that action item
Where
is
did this, where do you guys see in this bill from? Because I can't,
it's in the agenda. It's in the agenda document.
And it's posted on the town website.
yeah, well, I've got my PC looking at you guys. I got my iPad looking at other stuff. I got my phone looking at stuff. I can't, I don't know how to get rid of the WebEx meeting and go over and look at something without losing the WebEx meeting. So I'll just have to, that's why I want you to send stuff out in advance. I can't be jumping around during a meeting like this to look at a lot of different electronic devices.
Okay,
Jay,
yes.
before we continue, I've got 2 other callers showing.
Yeah, let's see,
So-
find out who we have here. Yep.
Let's see, we've got Caleb, is caller number 2.
Yep.
Caller
Oh.
number 4, is that,
That's Paul.
calling user, is that Ed? Or,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, no,
That's Paul.
Paul. And then I have a 3rd caller, who I don't know, who else is called in that is on phone only? Could you-
Melanie,
Yes,
Melanie, I may have signed in twice. Got thoroughly confused on the sign-in this time, and only by the grace of God am I gotten, I don't see my picture. But I'm in there twice, I think,
yes, I think you're caller number 5.
probably.
Yeah, and that's okay. I just wanted to make sure we didn't have someone from the public because we have to identify that for the virtual meetings. So we're all set, Jay. You can continue.
I did get, Jay, I did get your email. I'm looking at it on my iPhone right now. I do see the invoice. And then, I mentioned the 2 journeymen and 2 apprentices for a total of 4 man hours. I mean, that's ridiculous. So, Sherm, you're right. We've got leverage.
Do not pay that.
Not
This
until
is
it's
Paul.
fixed, anyway.
Take a look at that invoice again, please, because it's not only 1 journeyman and 1 apprentice. But they spent 2 hours. So it's not 2 electricians and 2 journeymen. It's only 1.
Okay.
I see 2 journeyman hours at $95 each for 190. I see 2 apprentice hours at $50 each for 100. So it looks to me like I've got $290 worth of labor.
Yes.
That's right, but only for 2 people.
No, it's showing 2 separate,
4 man hours.
right.
It's 2, Paul is right. 2 people, 2
Two
hours.
people work 2 hours each.
4 man hours.
Right.
It's-
Those are pricey stainless steel caps too.
Yeah, considering they haven't fixed the problem, I definitely think we should withhold this payment.
Oh,
I agree.
You know,
Nice.
I'm looking at this thing, 2 stainless steel caps for $271. Are you kidding me? I mean, I went to Home Depot and saw a plastic cap for like $1.50 each.
Yep.
Those are West Marine prices.
Yeah. Yeah, they're
Okay.
definitely trying to gouge us.
And the weatherproof box and cover, is that just replacing the box that was there? Is that what that's about?
The box that's there looks like it's the same one that was there in the past, and maybe they replaced it with an identical box. And I can't tell the difference, but it looks like the same box was there. I was just there a couple hours ago also.
Okay.
Is it worth, putting sort of a priority issue on this in terms of, bypassing SNS at this point and just finding somebody who can rectify the situation and get it done? And then, just put SNS on the back burner. We're done with them. And but this seems to be a more of a dangerous situation potentially than just a rudimentary fix type thing, in my eyes anyway.
I'm not sure what the danger is, other than one of the things that Eric and I found was three volts AC straight current at the box. I think we pretty much have to ask these guys to do the job right. Give them one more chance to do the job right, and I think we have to do that. I don't think we can bypass them at this point when they haven't finished the job and they've sent us an invoice and we know the job's not complete. I think we got to follow through. Spend one more time with them.
I'm not sure we should expect another invoice for going back and fixing it again.
I agree.
Oh, absolutely not.
Okay. All right. So action item 2 is still open then. All right. Action item 3. Commissioner Williams was going to send Sherm the bill for the transient dock signs.
Yeah, I got the bill, and I'll turn it into the town. They'll write a check Thursday.
Okay, so that one's done. Action item 4. Treasurer's report. I guess we'll see that in the treasurer's report. We'll cover that then.
Yeah, that's done.
Okay, that's done. Action item 5. Do you know if Eric contacted the AIDS Navigation Division for the borough breakwater aid?
He did. He sent an email out and it stated that they are looking at this. I can tell you what the email, he actually, didn't he have it in his report too? Yes, it's in his
Okay.
report.
All right, we'll consider this done then.
Yes.
All right, 6th is done. Actually, Jess and I attended the August 13th meeting. And they don't want nothing from us. Action item 7.
I sent out an email that included the excerpts from their actual meeting notes.
Yes.
You could see what their take was on it. It's really too bad.
It is. It's sad.
Action item 7. I did get in touch with Kim and I did get feedback from Timothy Delgado regarding our ordinance, and I passed some of that to our ordinance writers, and we'll talk about that more at the management plan revision section. Action item 8. Melanie was going to contact the town regarding changing the link, and I think that she did that. That's done.
Yes, I did, and it's already actually showing on the website. Charles, in the beginning of the year, he had put in a written blurb onto the webpage stating about the changes with online mooring, and he put the web link in there. And action item 9 refers to the same, and
It's the same thing, right?
yeah. So I called the town and I talked to Cindy, and quote, she said it was above her pay grade. So she gave me to the IT gentleman.
Roger.
I never
Roger
can remember his name. And he said he couldn't do it either. So
Right, because that was Charles' website you wanted changed, and then
yes,
you had Charles change it. That's our website.
Our commission webpage, Charles is the administrator. So he said it's already there. And I found typos and he fixed the typos. And I also spoke to Online Mooring, and separately for the town website to show on the Online Mooring page, they put in a ticket for their IT person, and he is going to add it to our home page. When you look at Online Moorings and you pull up Stonington Harbor, it's got Eric's information on the left, and under his Harbor Master link, that is where they will show the town mooring link. And that should be completed within a week. So
Okay,
that's done.
okay. All right. So that gives us the end of the minutes from the last meeting. I get a
Hey,
motion.
Jay?
Yes.
Jay, action item 5, you closed it. I think that had to do with the with a signage or at the borough breakwater, the inner breakwater. But in Eric's report, he didn't talk about that. He talked about speaking with the Coast Guard about Osbrook Point, a day mark there, but I don't see anything in his notes about talking to them about the inner breakwater.
I think
So
it's
maybe
in
that
an
shouldn't be
email
closed.
he sent out. I received the email. I can look for it while someone else is
Did he
talking.
did he
We can go
discuss
back
did
to
he,
it.
in that email did he discuss the end of the borough breakwater? That
Yes, and they're going to put a sign up as well as, I don't remember all the exact wording, but basically there's going to be a sign and they're also going to put something on the metal steps so that they can't climb.
Oh, okay. Okay. I didn't get that email, so thanks.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we sent, I'll look at it on my phone while someone else is talking.
Okay. All right.
Just so you're all aware, it's hard to, all of you, if you wanted, like Jesse said, to go look at something else while you're on the WebEx. And I found it locks you out of the WebEx. So don't try to do that because then it will give you a hard time to try to get back in. So if you're looking up something, use an iPad or your phone.
That's why I have all this stuff.
Yeah, me too. I've got
I don't think they have a problem switching.
just like you, Jesse. I'm multitasking.
I just bring up the Word on top of the WebEx. It seems to work fine.
Oh, okay. It doesn't work for me.
Okay. Okay, so now can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Who's second, please? Bruce M.
Bruce M was second.
Thank you.
Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the approving the minutes from the last meeting?
Aye.
Opposed? Any opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. Back to the agenda. Next on the agenda is any public comment. I don't think there are any members of the public. So we'll go on to correspondence. The only correspondence we received was a waiting list address update from John Ahern. And I have that. And once I got it, I figured, well, I'll just go ahead and update it in the online mooring. Apparently, I don't have the authority to do that. So
Would you like me to change that?
it would be good. I think it'd be just as easy for me to make these changes as scanning this and sending it to you to make them. I think it would be probably more easier if I just made them myself.
Okay, no problem.
So if you could give me that update capability, I can update them. I had to get in touch with him because this one was very tricky because everything changed on it except his name. So I wanted to make sure it was really the same guy. Everything, phone number, email, address, everything changed. And then the way you wrote the email on the paper form, I misread it, a U instead of a V. So I had to get back with him on the proper email to put in too. So now I've got all the right data to make that change.
Does anyone else want to have access to, while I'm calling them and putting in a ticket to make changes? Is there anyone else who wants to have administrator access to make changes on online mooring?
Please add me to that, if you would, Melanie.
Certainly, Sherman. Your video is showing now.
Yeah, I figured out how to turn off the other one.
Okay. Jay and Sherm.
Okay. All right, so that brings us
Talking
to
about
the,
administrator for online mooring. Is this something Charles should be doing?
that who should be doing?
Charles,
Um,
isn't that his role?
necessarily.
I'm not quite sure what, I mean, from the past, his role was, it seems like IT administrator kind of worked for the commission. Is that true?
I don't think that is necessarily the role of the deputy harbor master to do that work. I think we were trying to get away from that actually and free up the deputy harbor master's time to go out on the water to get more on water presence.
Is he doing that?
Has he ever?
I don't know. That
I didn't get that impression from
I
the
don't think
last
we,
2 years.
I don't think we need or need him to administer the online mooring for us though.
Okay. I will continue to do that kind of stuff with online since I've done a number of trainings with them. And I've been working with Jen on our site, so I'm happy to continue to do that. I just wanted to understand Charles's role with us more.
Let me make one comment. When I talk, I hear a lot of static. You all hear that too? Am I fouling things up somehow? Yes.
It's actually from you, Sherm.
All right, well, my comment is short then. A major problem we have and continue to have and have always had is the information, the data, the applications, the checks, the whatever that go through Eric often get sidelined somewhere. They're not getting into online mooring. And until all that stuff gets into online mooring on a timely basis, it's never going to tell us a story. And in fact, online mooring should be able to tell all of we commissioners what the hell's going on. But right now it doesn't. And I know online mooring pretty well, so I know what numbers aren't there. There are lots of them are not in there. And it's just because the data hasn't been entered. I thought we had worked out with Eric a way to handle that, but I don't think that's working. I don't know why, but that's still a problem. And until we solve that problem, we're going to get garbage out of online, just like we got garbage out of Charles. A system.
I'm happy to take on more of an administrator secretarial kind of role with online. I enjoy doing it. I've offered that up to Eric a couple of times. I guess did we hire someone to enter the inspection data from Don's dock?
Yes, I thought we had approved the hiring of someone to enter any and all data, inspection data or any other data that Eric approved to be entered. So all he basically needed to do was say, this is all this stuff is fine, get it in. But it has not happened, to my knowledge.
I've seen
I don't know why not.
You haven't been asked to pay somebody any money?
No.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
And I've asked about it and I haven't heard back.
So it's an assumption that Charles is still sort of the man in terms of this data. Am I right?
No.
No,
No.
he is not.
Charles has wiped his hands of it.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm actually doing a lot of the data kind of stuff with Eric, but there's a lot more that could be done. And there's a lot more that we could be utilizing online for my conversation with Jen. But the data has to be entered.
So why don't we hire somebody to do that?
Well, you can't hire me. So
No,
you
no,
have to hire someone. But I'm happy to do it.
What is the data that needs to be entered?
I'll give you an example of something that I worked on this week. Elihu Island. The Elihu Island Trust has been receiving individual emails, just like Don's Dock, Cardinal Cove, Dodson's, and they were receiving like Dodson's 125 emails. So I worked with Jen this week to fix that so that they get one email with everybody listed, but still they will receive their $6 per person per mooring. And I learned how to do that. And also they found a number of data programming issues with our page that they are fixing as a result of this. And something else that I did that Eric had asked me to do earlier in the season was for Elihu Island to take all the family members and make it one entry under, like, I put it under a commercial status, which is what we do for Dodson's, Cardinal, etc. But each one is $50. It's not a commercial charge that will show on there. And I set it up that way because they're individual people. But now Stephen Bates, who oversees the trust for Elihu, he is now going to receive one email next year with all of the information listed and the description of what the mooring number is and the family member that owns that. And it was quite cumbersome to come up with that. I spent an hour and a half just doing that with her for Elihu. So I learned a bunch of different tips and different things that we can do to make things easier working within the site.
The point I was trying to make and the question I was asking, I think you kind of answered. I don't see how we could really bring in somebody else who doesn't know anything at all about what we're doing and hire them to enter all this data. It's too intimate. I mean, it's nice to be able to wash our hands of it, but that's not going to happen realistically. You know, it's something that we're very familiar with. We're going to have to go through it. I don't know who we is, but we can't bring in a third party. You know, a high school kid at one point somebody talked about, that's ridiculous. You're not going to be able to bring somebody up to speed. You're going to be answering more questions that they ask rather than just doing it yourself. So I think it's a bad idea to try to pass this off to somebody outside of our group. It's our problem. We got to solve it.
I think there's a bit of data entry with all any paper entries, any paper renewals that we got. So
Yes,
those
and
all
that
had to
has
be
been
entered
done.
manually.
Yeah,
And
that's okay.
That's what Eric was going to have his daughter do that. We were going to pay her for it.
Well, and then who's going to check that to make sure it's right? I mean, data entry requirements.
That was Eric was going to check that. Instead of having to enter the data off the piece of paper by himself, his daughter does it after he's approved it and she puts it in. I mean, I'll give you another example. It would be quite easy for the daughter or anybody else with any supervision at all to handle. We had a guy on the wait list that I handled last year, approved by Eric and got a mooring. And he sent me a picture of his mooring ball, and his Larry one is sitting on it now. And he's still listed on the wait list, and he's not on the mooring list.
So what's the typical example of data that would be required? What's a typical example of the data we would ask somebody to enter, and where would they get that information from so they can enter into online moorings?
What Sherm just said is something that I did this week with my groups because there was a programming issue that I found because I was tired of waiting for my people because I kept getting emails and telephone calls that they're still showing on the wait list, and we assigned them a mooring. So any of those you have, if you want to send them to me, I can do those because I learned how to do it this week rather than waiting for Eric. I give Eric sympathy. He's got a lot on his plate and I understand that. And he has been pretty good about, easily sending me stuff. He's confident that I'll take care of it for him. So I'm happy to do that. And I understand with the whole COVID thing, I'm stuck at home because of health issues. So I'm enjoying this because it gives me, something to do besides being in the yard kind of thing. So I don't mind. If you want me to do it, I'm volunteering. It's not something that's going to continue forever because once we get the mass amount of it in, then it's just the yearly ones that we have to make changes to. And I'm happy to do that. But I'll leave that with you. And it's something that, not to say, Eric, you've got to.
Well, I think we should take Melanie up on that because it isn't just as simple as entering the stuff that comes off an application or the inspection reports or the half a dozen ways information comes to us, not to online mooring directly. It isn't just that. You have to be able to get the documentation from the harbor master's lockbox. In other words, you get your hands on it. Because everything goes to the harbor master. It does not go electronically into online. So Eric has got to agree, and I guess he has really, to work with Melanie. So things don't get there till the last minute, but as paper flows in, anything that he needs to sign off, he would normally not put into online until something else happens. He needs to sign off quickly and then get it to Melanie. I mean, that's to your point, Ed, why don't we just hire somebody? The only problem is who does that somebody take direction from? We thought we hired somebody and maybe she just didn't want to do it. We don't know. But we thought we had hired somebody, but nothing's happened as a result. Melanie, that'd be great if you did that. And I absolutely agree that the commission needs to take charge of its information, its data. We are responsible for that.
I received 2 complaints this week from people that things, they went online and it wasn't showing. One of them was Richard Cole. And I worked with online and fixed the issues and learned the tips so that I could fix that for him. And it's showing to the public now. So personally, I think it gives a poor impression of us if people are going online to use the system and they're not seeing the correct information. So I'll leave it with you, gentlemen. You decide, but I am happy to help with that.
I think another issue that I've seen is not just going from the wait list to the active list, but in my sector, I see boats that are on moorings that are from a previous list that are not on the current list of being active mooring holders, but there's the boat on the right mooring, but it's not on the online mooring list. So I guess the question then is, who's got the definitive master list?
There isn't one right now.
Eric, like you said, it's not on the online mooring.
Those renewals haven't been put into the online mooring yet, so they're not showing up on the list yet.
Correct.
That's what's happening.
So we need to, I guess, as we go through this inspection process, we have to give to Eric and maybe Melanie too, any list of suspect boats on moorings that are just not on the current online mooring list and have it investigated, especially if there's actually boats on those moorings.
Yep.
So I'll do that on my list anyway.
Okay. Where were we?
So bottom line is Melanie's going to take the action item to get those lists straightened out and entering the data. Is that correct?
As long as all of you are in agreement, and I'm going to, since Eric's not on this call, and I'm going to let him know that we agreed that responsible for inputting and updating the system ASAP.
Hey, do we need a motion?
I don't think so.
I agree.
I agree.
So, all right.
Can
think
everyone
we're-
raise their hands so I can see?
Is
Agreed.
there a motion? The only person that has to agree is you.
We don't need a motion.
So whatever everybody else wants.
Okay,
Hey, Melanie, if you want to hire anybody, the job's open too, an assistant. Feel free,
okay,
up to $15 an hour
you got it.
With benefits.
with no benefits, yeah.
All right,
Okay, that brings us to the treasurer's report, I believe. So this is the second page of the agenda document.
We all got it a pretty quiet month. No, we received, or we didn't deposit any money. I did update the probable line over there, so as we go along, it looks, I'm guessing we're at 224 private moorings now. I know Eric has got some more. I don't know how many, but I'm guessing 243 when it's all said and done. Paid a couple of bills, $54 to Online Mooring for 9 $6 charges. And $238 went to Dodson's. We moved somebody's mooring. Or Eric moved somebody's mooring correctly to make room for something. So that was it. I guess the big news is implementing what we talked about at the last meeting of setting up some, I've called them reserves. If we'd like to call them something else, that's okay. But I added another 5,000 to the boat, 10,000 for the public access, and 10,000 for an emergency. And that left us with $10,167.81 in undesignated funds. And I projected when all of the bills are in, finally, we'll end up the year with almost $6,000 in undesignated funds and the numbers that you see for reserves. So that's the treasurer's report. Be quiet.
Sherm, are those in individual accounts, the reserves?
No. It's just on this piece of paper.
Okay.
They're all in the same, and as a matter of fact, if you really wanted to look where the money was, Bruce, it's in 2 accounts at the town, because everything we do, for some reason, fits 2 categories of the 6 or 7 that were there way back when that I guess somebody used. We've changed it to be more meaningful for us from a descriptive standpoint. So it all is in 2 different pots at the town. Just broken out on this piece of paper for our edification and for anybody else that happens to look at this.
Okay. I get a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
I'll make a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
I'll second.
thanks, Ed and Bruce.
Okay, any discussion?
Let me add one other thing, since Bruce brought up, just a reminder. Every month Jay gets and I get a report from the town. we have, the money that they have received year to date, month, year to date, and all the money that they've paid out. And our numbers always match theirs bottom line. So there are our check.
They're the actual bank account we have.
That's right. That's the bank account.
Think of it that. Any other discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. On to the Harbor Master's report. So Eric sent us a bit longer Harbor Master's report this month. He had quite a few things to report. It's too bad he couldn't attend today. There was no, he noted there's no Special Olympics regatta. He did contact the Coast Guard regarding Pawcatuck Point, Daymark, and looks like the guidance there would be that they suggest, the Coast Guard suggests that we put a private aid to navigation. And I think knowing the Coast Guard, so if they decided that we needed an aid there, a daymark there, which is what we're looking for, the piling, it would have to go through some number of budget cycles of the federal government and rise up high enough in priority for the Coast Guard construction budget to make it happen. That could definitely take years to happen. So if we wanted it to happen in our tenure on the commission, we probably need to do it ourselves. Is the idea there?
What's the liability if we do that?
I don't think it's any different than any of our other buoys, the markers we put out. It would be a permitted aid with the Coast Guard in deep.
I just want, if somebody hits one of our buoys, it's not a big deal. Somebody hits a rock, it is a big deal.
If they hit the daymark, you mean?
Well, if you hit the
The whole
daymark, you
idea
hit
is
the
so they
rock.
don't hit the rock. Well, if they hit the rock, then they hit the rock. If we don't have
Yeah.
a marker there, then that's their problem, I guess. So we could leave it the way it is, but everybody's expressed an interest in doing something about that.
No, I think we ought to do something about it. How do you do that? Do you hire a contractor to do that? We can't do it, right?
Yeah, we hired, as Eric says in his report, he says he contacted Seaport Marine Construction.
Yeah.
Asked their opinion of installing a wood or steel piling at that location. They given a rough estimate of $3,500 plus or minus to install a steel piling.
And he
Eric
submitted the application.
submitted the application to Connecticut Deep for the daymark.
Okay.
Just as a case in point, for the pilings that we had put in for the Harbor Master's dock, that was $1,000 a piling. I talked with Eric about this today. I thought that their estimate of $3,500 was a little bit on the steep side, but for steel piling, it'll last forever. They said that wood piling probably lasts 20 years. I don't know if that's in his report or not. So anyway, I think, we've got contractors that can do it. We might discuss the price, but to me, it's a go forward with it. It's a done deal. You have
It may be worth paying extra for a more durable piling, then the commission in the future wouldn't have to revisit it.
That way, don't worry about Ed's concern on liability because somebody smashed into a steel piling. They're not gonna knock it down.
Could this be profiled against the same issue we had with that rock adjacent to the Folly on the other end of Sandy Point? Meaning it was a hazard that we put a day marker. It's just a more maintenance marker, and the fact that it's got to be upkeep. But a permanent day marker on a piling is obviously going to weather time a little bit better, I think. Obviously, the maintenance thereof would be on us, correct?
It would be on us to maintain it, right?
Yeah.
So maintenance there would be if we're just having a day mark, just the big panel, reflective panel goes up. We're not going to put a light on it, I don't believe. So We just have that. It would have to be changed every few years as it fades.
Right.
It's very similar to the markers that are in the Barkdug River. Those are privately, a lot of those are privately maintained aids in the Barkdug River.
Okay.
I also spoke to Eric about this when I saw his harbor master report, because there was public comment in the Stonington Facebook forum about that particular area and a hazard, and why hasn't the harbor master in Stonington does something about this, et cetera, et cetera. And he and I both went back to try to find that particular, it was like 5 days later, to find the conversation and the people that spoke about it, et cetera, and what they were saying. And the administrator for the Facebook page had taken the posting down. So we don't have that as backup, but I can tell, and as I mentioned to Eric, there were numerous comments from boaters about that particular area. So it would be well received from what I saw.
That's adjacent, I mean, part of the slow no wake issue as well, correct? Yes.
No, it had nothing to do with the slow no wake issue.
I know, but that we consolidated that whole issue and didn't deal with Osbrook Point at this particular point in time because it was not really as big a concern as the other end of Sandy Point was. That's my reading.
No, that's not correct. DEEP, the guy that we Eric and I brought up to look at that, said if you made it, if it's a choke point, they will slow down automatically, which we know doesn't happen. But
Right.
We didn't want to drop that. We still wanted to put in the slow no wake zone.
But this marker will help, at least from conversations last year Eric and I had with the Mystic, I can't think of the name of towboat, Mystic towboat, of how many times they had gone out to that area to assist boats hitting the rocks there.
Yeah, but the rocks that they hit are not the rocks that are at the end of the area where we want to put a day mark. The rock that they hit is to the south of that, which is only exposed at low tide. So when they deviate from the channel, they end up hitting that rock. The rock's probably a couple 100 feet to the south of the channel.
Seal Rock.
Is that the name of it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Who said that? Who said that?
Bruce, Seal Rock.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I was interpreting it as we were talking about the off of Osbrook Point where those very large houses are. There's that rock.
Reality, I don't know that anybody, I don't know of any incidents where somebody's actually hit the rocks off of Osbrook Point that we want to put a day marker on. So we're really trying to do something to prevent an accident. It hasn't happened yet. But the rock that they have hit, there's nothing we can do about it. I mean, it's outside the channel.
That one's marked. I mean, the channel's well marked on the south side. Because you're not going to go in the channel, then you're on your own. Right. Okay. So I think $3,500, if that's what it costs, and that includes the day mark and the whole thing, that'd be very reasonable. Okay. So then
do we want to vote to allocate that right now and proceed, or you want to wait till another month or so and talk with Eric more about it, get more information? I mean, we're really not in a hurry right now. The season's almost over. The important thing is to probably get it in by next May.
Right. He needs a permit before we can do any construction. So
An agenda item for next meeting?
Yep.
okay, we can do that. So we might have to remind me next month.
I'll put it as an action item.
Okay, capture that as an action item to review that with the harbor master and allocate the funds for it. Okay, he goes on to talk about a concert that was planned, that was possibly happening at Sandy Point on the 7th.
It
And
did
he
happen.
talks about it in the future tense. Then he talks about it as it happened, I guess.
It
There
did
were
happen.
125 vessels anchored in the area, and it sounded like it went off without any problems. That's good. And the transient dinghy dock has had a few reports of dinghies stayed tied for extended periods. Owners were identified and vessels removed. Now, I don't know if that was extended periods, like overnight, I guess, or
Yeah, there've been a couple boats there overnight for a number of nights.
okay. But it
There's
is
a
more,
lot more transient anchorage usage this year for sure. My husband and I have noticed a lot more, twice as many boats every weekend as usual than from past years.
I've also noticed many of them do not use the anchorage, the transient anchorage area.
Yes.
Anchor outside of that in the more of the channel type area, not directly in the channel for the fishermen, but the outside our mooring area. So in that case, when they are doing that, they need to display their anchor lights at night.
Correct.
If they're inside the anchorage, our transient anchorage area, they do not need to display their anchor lights at night. So you can go around, Melanie, and you can tell them they have to turn their lights on.
But just as a case in point, I happen to be able to see Whisper when she's in the harbor from my house. Her anchor light's about 160 feet high. There's not a whole lot of people zipping through the harbor that are looking up that high to see an anchor light, but that's the regulation that works.
Isn't that an arrow
That's
beacon
true.
that he's got?
It should have, but yeah, watch out for
They usually have some deck lights on though too, don't they? I mean,
Yeah,
they don't-
Yeah, they have spreader lights.
the spreader
They're
light.
the only boat out there that uses the proper black ball
Ball, correct.
when they're anchored. Also, no other boat does.
Right.
And there were a few weeks ago, we actually mentioned, my husband and I stopped and mentioned they were from Philadelphia, and they said they couldn't find the anchorage area. So that's why they were anchored in the middle of the channel. And we pointed out where very nicely and showed them where they should be, and they quickly lifted anchor and moved over. So that was good, because it would have been dangerous in the morning for the fishermen.
Right. So that's something the harbor master or deputy harbor master could be doing out there.
Yes. Not me.
Right. Unless we deputize everybody here. There we go.
Well, actually, Jay, you brought it up on several occasions. The actual position is a deputy harbor master, not an assistant. And the deputy harbor master theoretically has all the same capabilities and authority as the harbor master. So perhaps when we go in for the harbor master recommendation this year, we should try to make sure that the deputy is able to go out on the boat and perform some of the similar functions.
I concur.
I agree.
I agree with that.
Totally agree. I think since Eric can't be out on the water as much with working full time, I think Charles should have more of a presence out there.
I was
Charles,
suggesting a deputy harbor master. I wasn't putting a name on it yet.
Because we as commissioners are often boaters and out on the water. Is there any authority? Do we speak with any authority at all to, like Melanie's instance where people were anchored in the wrong place, to speak out, or just as just to give them guidance? I mean, is there anything else that we should? We see something that's not going right, and Eric's not around. I guess our recourse ultimately is, if it's some dangerous violation, to call the police and have them come out, or call Eric and have him come out. But I assume we wouldn't have any special authority as commissioners out on the water. Is that right?
Non-confrontational. Non-confrontational was the word that Eric's used in the past.
Yes.
We can go over an inquiry and inquire and pick up information and then pass the information on to him or the police department if we see something drastic, radical, whatever.
Right.
I introduced myself as a commissioner
Right.
of Stonington Harbor and offered assistance.
I think that's fine for boats that are moored and you can go up alongside. You can certainly be non-confrontational. One of the problems we have is that people go speeding through the harbor. I'm in the harbor a lot, and I try to get them to, slow down, but they don't know. They could care less who I am. Not that I'm anybody special at all, but somehow we don't have the ability, Joe, to confront somebody. We don't really have the ability to do that. We can't chase them down. We can't do that. All we can do is, if they're at anchor, try to be nice to them.
Right.
We can take down registration numbers and time and date, and as we know now, we can also use our phones to, identify and use as evidence.
Yes, good point.
Yeah, in fact, the police have requested we do that if we have a violation.
Yes.
In fact, to amplify what Ed just said, one of the things they challenged us with last year, I think, when we met with them, was what evidence do you have that people are speeding through the harbor? You got to show us some data, and we just didn't have the data. So they kind of use that as their argument that they don't need to be on. They don't need a greater presence in the harbor because there's not that many violations because we couldn't prove it.
And one way you can prove it is everyone has their phones, and a video capability often is the case. And if you're able, if something's happening close enough that you're concerned about it, and you get a video of that, and you get an identification number, a name number, and a hailing port, those videos are timestamped, and you can submit those to whoever, to Eric or to someone else. Maybe it's someone in the harbor who needs the talking to, or maybe somebody outside the harbor that authorities should be talked to. But if they're violating and putting others at risk, then I think it's something that we should, it's one thing that we can do to identify people and to pass the information along. And so
I've had two instances where I've done this and gotten the middle finger back in response.
Oh, yeah, I have several times.
So I still will do it, understanding, but that's as far as we go, and as I understand it from Eric, and all we can do is just take down registrations and photograph or video what's necessary. So.
Yeah.
Agreed.
No, the key is getting the harbor master boat out there and just having that presence there. Even if it was one of, I don't know what the feeling would be for commissioners operating the harbor master boat, just to give it more hours out there. You take it out to do your mooring checks or whatever. We haven't talked about that in the past. That'd be something to bring up with Eric if we could do that. Just to have the boats there makes a big difference. Okay, so transient thing we did that. His last note is that the Robert G's fuel gauge has failed and will need to be replaced.
Why don't I jump in and see what I can do with Eric on that? That should be an easy fix.
Okay, that'd be great, Bruce. All right, so that's our harbor master.
I have some other business, under other business with him.
Yes, please. Please.
I talked with them, the Wanawana Club talked with me about the location of their special purpose moorings. Eric was not aware that the I-18s are a keeled boat. He thought it was a swing keel. And right now, they're in too shallow water. Apparently, they're as much as 8 inches of the keel is buried in the mud. So Eric has agreed that the moorings can be moved. He's agreed to let Ian at Don's Dock put them in a suitable placement that's It's a deeper water, but also relatively close to where the Water Club launches their boats for getting access to it. So I talked to Don Stock today about doing that. Eric told me to go ahead and talk with them. So hopefully that will happen within a week or so. They anticipate using their I-218 for at least another 6 weeks, and the harbor's clearing out. So even if they have to go to a location that's moved again in the spring, they still be enough water to be able to maneuver. Also, in another item, I think this is in Sherman's area. There's a trimaran there called Swing Time, and it turns out there's a boat moored close to Swing Time that is slightly out of position. It's mooring, and they tend to be too close together under certain conditions, particularly since one's a tri-hull, the other's a monohull. They respond quite differently to the wind and the current. So Eric is aware of that, and he's going to have the other boat mooring moved probably in the spring. I think the boat's name is Patience. I think it's owned by a guy named Doolin. Does that sound familiar, Sherman? Is that in your area?
No, it's not familiar, but that's fine. That's what it's going to do is the right solution.
Okay. So that's all the other things that he and I talked about.
Yeah, Swing Time's on Cardinal Cove commercial mooring.
Yeah, but the other mooring is not. I don't think the other mooring is not. Swing Time is not the issue. The other boat is the issue.
Okay. Okay. Swing Time is Todd Williams. All right, so that concludes the Harbor Master's report. Can I get a motion to accept the Harbor Master's report?
Motion to approve.
Seconded?
Second.
Okay. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Any opposed on the call-ins? I guess not. All right. So that brings us to our old business, the Harbor Management Plan revision status. So I did go to Deep for feedback, and I did get feedback from Deep, from Timothy Delgado, who did not like the way we had defined our slow no wake zone around Sandy Point. They like the slow no wake zones to be defined by geographical features or government or federal government markers, the navigation buoys that are there year round. If it's marked by our slow no wake buoys, then we would have an issue of keeping them in year round. And also, he suggested that the slow no wake zone only apply to motor vessels. And in terms of details like 6 mile per hour or the characteristics of the slow no wake zone, he suggests we just refer to the statute, the 15-121 A1 statute, so that if we just refer to the statute, then if they make any changes to it in the statute, then it's automatically incorporated in our ordinance, and we don't have to worry that our ordinance is in conflict with the statute. So we need to make those changes to the ordinance. There's a drawing. I sent you guys a quick. I revised the drawing to indicate what I talked with them about making the change to, going from R4 in the harbor side to the R10 buoy over on the other side of off the spit that comes out on Sandy Point there. Would be the southern boundary. The northern boundary would be the line between Elihu Island and the point. And so it'd make basically a very similar trapezoid to what we had defined using the slow no wake buoys. And then we would put our slow no wake buoys in along those lines to mark the boundary.
Eric expressed some concern that the new extension of the slow no wake zone is a little bit farther to the east than he had anticipated. But if it's something that DEP is happy with, then we'll go with it. But it's a little bit farther than anticipated.
Well, we could run it to the green buoy instead of the red buoy. If you want to do it, that would make it a bit shorter to the east.
I think you need to talk with Eric about that.
Okay.
Was there something specific, Jess, that he was anxious about? Just the distance, or was it?
Like the distance of going too far to the east. I mean, starting to encroach on the whole passageway between Sandy Point and Pawcatuck Point. And we were really just trying to take care of the area around the tip of Sandy Point, not so far to the east. The area appears to be.
Right. We could go to the C9 buoy instead of the R10 buoy. That would shorten it up a bit.
I need one more device. I can pull up my geographical charts. I'm out of devices right now.
I just pulled it up my Word here. We could go to the C9 buoy instead of the R10 buoy. We could do that.
Yeah, I think the C9, the C9 is the one that people typically stop at now, which is the second green.
It's the second green. It's the second green from the trophy buoy, from the lighted buoy, right?
Well, or
the second green from the corner,
from the turn, yeah.
Okay. So that might be more reasonable to have it there versus the R10.
Yeah. Now, what are you using over for a mark on the west side?
The only thing there is the R4 buoy.
Yeah,
Is it further out than we wanted?
I mean, that's the only mark you have there, right?
That's the only mark that's there. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think the method that Eric mentioned was he wants to give boats enough time to reduce speed and therefore nullify the wake as they approach the tip of Sandy Point. And that obviously, depending on boat, make and model, there's lots of variable there, but I thought that was deemed to be a pretty good location of what was originally mapped out.
Which was?
The R4.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that makes that quite a bit, it's quite a bit short. It's still quite a bit shorter on the west side than the east side.
Yes, but it's longer than what we had proposed. We had proposed about halfway between R4 and the tip of Sandy.
Right. So did you get the drawing I sent to you, Ed?
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
R4.
The buoy on the north side of the channel doesn't change that much. The buoy on the south side, we got to figure out how we're going to do that one, because I would suggest we put our buoys about where we were going to put them before. And
just back to the very question that I raised, and our buoys have no bearing on where the slow no wake zone is. The thing that matters apparently is the dates of navigation or points on land. So our buoys, I originally thought that our buoys were the lines of demarcation for slow no wake. They're not. I was corrected by that in a couple emails 2 days ago.
Right, we put our buoys in on the line that are defined by the other things. So
matter. The only thing that matters is go back to the harbor, and I think you pointed out, Jay, that the harbor's slow no wake goes from the day marker on the breakwater to Penguin Shoals, I think, and then over to the day marker on Monsanto breakwater.
Yep.
The fact that we have slow no wake buoys there is a signage, but it's not demarcated.
That's right. That's right. The line is defined by those features.
So the question that came
likewise on the other side, where we have it goes from the end of the breakwater to Wampausick Point. I think our slow no wake buoy is quite a bit inside of that, actually.
That's correct.
because that'd be kind of rough to put it out there, I think.
The question that Eric and I wrestled with today was for the marker that would be supposedly on Edwards Point, where would it be? I mean, there's nothing on Edwards Point that we can point to. So I'm not sure how that would work.
Right. I think we still put the buoy where we wanted to put it, essentially up between Iluhu Island and Edwards Point on the line that is drawn between Edwards Point and Iluhu Island. So,
Well, yeah, we can divide it by the landmark. So it can be the tip of Edwards and the tip of Elihu.
that's what would set the line, and then we put
Yeah.
our buoy right on that line, right in,
Yeah.
by their channel.
Right. So I don't see a problem with that. I'll rewrite the ordinance to say that.
Okay. So I can adjust this to C9, but I guess we should check with Eric on that. Or do you think we should just go, or if you guys already talked with him and he wants to do C9 instead? No? Okay. I'll check with him on C9. I'll send him this diagram and see which, or I'll send him 2 diagrams.
Okay. Yeah, just get back to me with an answer and I'll fix it.
Okay. Okay, so that's that change. That's the only change that feedback I got from them. And he thought once we fix this, that our ordinance should be good to go for local approval, that they wouldn't have any issues with anything else in it, and that we should go ahead and do that.
How about the plan? Any feedback on the plan?
The plan is a different process there, Deep, and I did not get any feedback on the plan yet.
Okay. Now,
It's different people look at the plan.
Sherm, we sent a copy to you just to do a check, right?
I did, yeah, and I reviewed the ordinance and did not see anything other than 2 little typos. That's
Okay.
it. Otherwise, it looks fine, and I'll let you know what those 2 are. Capital H instead of lowercase h. So
Okay, cool.
I did not look at the plan. I thought that was pretty much right the last time.
So Ed, if we make the changes in the wording for the slow no wake around Sandy Point and
Yep.
change the chart, do we have to submit it back to DEP again for review, or do we just go forward to sound?
I think I would, since I talked to this guy, Tim Delgado, I think I'm going to send it back to him, a final check, and then go to the Board of Selectmen with it. So right now, we are not having any town meetings, but the Board of Selectmen has powers by the executive orders to approve ordinances. So we may be in a good shape to get it more quickly approved than waiting for a town meeting. But the Board of Selectmen probably, I would think they may want to send it back for a legal review. That might take a month or something. Okay, whatever that is.
We're being hacked by the Russians.
Somebody's has problems. Somebody's vacuum cleaner or something. So that'll be the route. All right, Ed, we'll work on getting it changed and back to Deep, and then I'll start working with the Board of Selectmen to get it approved. Okay. Those are actions for that, Melanie.
Yes, got him.
All right, then the Board of Selectmen, I forwarded everybody an email in advance. So you should have got this one, Jesse, for the
Yes, I did.
meetings regarding the meetings and having our meetings. You know who that is, Melanie?
No. There we go. I muted Sherm. Sorry, Sherm.
Sherm's always causing trouble. Yeah.
I know. Sorry. If you need to speak, just raise your hand or I'll to unmute you.
Right. So the email called status of board commission meetings. I forwarded to everybody for discussion here. This came in after the agenda went in. So they wanted to, so according to their definitions, we could theoretically meet in person. I don't, personally, I prefer to do it this way.
I like this one.
If we could.
I'll go along with that.
Get Sherman's microphone straightened out, we'd be better off, but other than that, it's pretty good. So but even if we had the in-person meeting, we would still have to use this tool and provide the virtual dial-in option,
Yes.
because not everybody would be comfortable coming to the meeting. So I think we should just keep meeting this way until they, virtually, until they tell us we can't.
Right now, I have a question for the meetings that, these virtual meetings, these are being recorded, right, Melanie?
Yes, they are.
So if we go back to in-person meetings, what happens? Because we have
We
to
still
record
have to
those.
record, my understanding from Stacy is that we still have to record them because we're offering the dial-in for people to listen and speak virtually. So we still have to use WebEx and record it.
So there's no advantage to having personal meetings then.
I don't see it.
Not right now.
No. And personally, I find this easier in that it makes us, all of us, wherever we are, at your vacation home, on our boats, we can connect. And we don't have to drive, somewhere. It's cutting time off, for our meetings. I just think this is a win-win all around.
I agree.
I agree.
I think having the more complete participation of the commission month to month is what we are seeing with this. And
Yes.
Tonight, for example, Bruce and Ed wouldn't have been able to attend.
That's right.
The guys spend time in other places and they would not be able to attend over the winter months. So this way we can all the commissioners can be represented and we should be able to do a better job.
I agree.
Okay. All right. Good. We're all in agreement. Excellent.
I understand the new requirement for these meetings, though, is you have to have a black dog shirt, like Jay and I
I
do.
was
That's
thinking the same thing.
I have like 20. I have like 20 black dog shirts. So
I can get a Defender shirt for everybody too.
Oh, there we
Oh,
go.
okay.
Mine says Hospice Regatta.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good one too. I got a
Free
bunch of those.
advertising.
I got a lot of
Mine's
those.
Hawaii.
Okay.
So next month, we should be able to provide to Eric our final report of how the moorings in our areas fared over the course of the summer. Is that correct?
Right. So did I forward you guys the other email that Stacy sent me?
About,
The Noxalone training?
yes,
The
Yes.
Naloxone training?
yes.
Yes.
I don't know if did you ever have this training, Bruce?
No.
Right, might have Bruce McKinnon. I got it
Actually,
from
no.
Ski Patrol. It might have come along after you stopped being active.
Yeah, it's been a few years.
Similar at
So
Pfizer.
this is available if anybody wants to do that. This is separate from the commission. If anybody's interested and thinks this might be worthwhile, you can participate in this. We're making it available. I'm surprised they're giving kits to everybody, but that's they're being controlled a little more than that. But I guess
Jay, do we want to attach that memo to the email Stacy sent to our minutes, or just no?
no, I don't think so.
Okay.
It was invitation for the board and commission members. I don't think so. I'm sure the town's got other outreach things they're doing.
Yeah.
Okay. That's it for new business, I think, unless anybody else has any new business.
I have something. The anchorage buoys, there's them. I was wondering two things. Wondering if we should put in more anchorage buoys than we currently have, since a few people have commented to me, transient boaters this year, they didn't know where it was. And I thought, and I spoke to Online Moorings about, because they know what other harbors do and that kind of thing. And they said that other harbors I sent them a photo, and larger mooring buoys and more of them. So I didn't know what other folks thought about that. And the other reason I'm requesting this is a couple of weeks ago, we had a powerboat and a large sailboat that was in the transient area, anchored super close to our boat. And we actually took a photograph in case, because one of them, they were actually anchored almost under our mooring ball. And that's happened before. And so I'm wondering if we need more designation or some other avenue somehow to avoid this happening. And the second is I noticed our mooring, the transient and the anchorage buoys need repainting. They're missing letters. And I also noticed it on one of the slow no wake buoys that's at the when you first enter the harbor. Also looks like it's not sitting straight, and it's also on needs painting.
Melanie, on those on the painting, or it's not actually painted. They are decals that they put on. Anchorage area, I mentioned a meeting or two ago that when Ian hauls them, I'm going to go down with a notebook and we're going to go over each one. And if some of those decals are missing, we can have Gilman. If it's just a decal, Ian can actually put those on, or Steve can put them on. If they need repair, we'll see that and we'll be able to send one back to Gilman. The other thing is one is missing, one Anchorage area buoy, and we decided to just leave it this year. So we will have another. I don't know what, maybe somebody else can say what the regulations are for our Anchorage area buoys. Can we add, let's say we added two more bigger ones. Bigger ones like the slow lake buoys on the channel side of the anchorage area, and then have the other 6 smaller buoys over toward the rest of it to define the rectangle. But are we limited in the number that we can have, or could we add a couple more?
I think those are all permitted in those so I think right now we would be limited to the 6, so we could replace smaller buoys with bigger buoys, I think, without a problem. But I think if we're going to add buoys, we'd have to get additional permits for those.
Right.
Then
I wonder if just replacing the 2 that are closest to the channel, that's what the people need to see first, and then
those 2,
that's where the anchorage area is, and then they'll go in to that area and they'll see the smaller buoys inside. Yeah. As far as Melanie's issue with the boats anchored too close, I would just approach them and ask them to move. They can't. You're not supposed to anchor close to a mooring field.
No, you're not.
So they're anchoring outside the transient area when they do that. Melanie.
Yes, they are. They were both of them this year. We had the problem last year, and every time we've spoken to them, and no one moves.
They don't move.
No.
That's
So,
time to
like,
get the harbor master.
Yeah, the harbor master.
Call
Yeah.
Eric. Just call
was,
Eric.
he wasn't out. We went and looked for him. So we took photographs in case there was damage to our boat.
Okay.
So I definitely would like to see 2 larger ones at the beginning of coming off the channel.
Here's-
That would
One thing-
definitely be helpful.
One thing we might do, we have to replace one anyway, so we can plan to replace that one with a larger style, like the Slow No Wake ones, which has that, they're bigger, they have a big
Yes.
skirt on them. And then perhaps get another large one, so we'd have 2. And then we'd now have 7, so we could keep one spare, but in case we lose one again.
Okay.
That sounds like a
That's
good plan.
agreeable to me. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, we should plan that for next year. We certainly have the resources for it.
Yeah, I can keep that in mind for next year.
Okay. Yes, because clearly, we had a lot of discussion tonight, people not knowing where our transient area is. So that would, hopefully that would help. Maybe we just need one of those. I've seen in some harbors, they have buoys actually with big signs on them. That's,
Yes.
slow down here, or they say this over here, something like that.
Yes, we've seen those too. That's kind of what I was thinking.
People can't, so it's still hard to read a round buoy, even as big as the Slow No Wake ones are.
That's all I have.
Okay, any other new business?
Yeah, I guess I have still a question about the assistant harbor master. We had, our assistant harbor master was doing all the data entry stuff and the computer stuff and what have you, which he no longer is doing. I don't think has he ever taken out the harbor management boat?
I don't believe so. I've asked that question in the past.
So then my question is, what does he do?
That was my question, and
All
I
right.
didn't want to be, being one of the newer members.
Well, I
didn't
mean,
want to-
we've got a boat, we're short out on the water, and it can't, Eric is limited. I think we've got to do something about getting somebody who will spend time on the water in the boat.
Absolutely.
Well, this goes back to what I mentioned a few minutes ago, and the actual position is called a deputy harbor master, not an assistant harbor master.
Okay,
So Charles has acted as the assistant, to assist the harbor master, but actually the deputy harbor master position is vacant. It's always been vacant. So when we go in for a recommendation for who we want for a harbor master, does that also include a deputy harbor master? Does anybody know?
Well, we haven't made those recommendations to the state in many years for.
We haven't done that in 8 years. Jesse, I have to pull out a letter. I have a letter from the appropriate person that told us rather, like 5 or 6 years ago, what the approval process was and what the current status is. Let me pull it out and get it to everybody, because it speaks to your question, whether you go in for approval of new terms, 3-year terms for harbor master and deputy harbor master, or whether the deputy harbor master is in by the harbor master. I think we need to check. I don't know the answer, but I think I have it in my file.
Excellent. I'd like to know that.
But we've not done this for, like Jay said, like 8 years.
Right.
Before
And
I
does
came
the
with her.
state pay Charles a sum of money? to
I
be
think
the
he gets a
deputy?
small
Yes,
stipend.
he gets money.
He gets a small
From the
stipend.
state.
Yes.
Is the
They're both-
harbor
They're both
master
appointed by the state.
Right? Someone was speaking.
Yeah, I was asking, is the harbor master designated by the governor?
Yes.
Yes, but the governor
So was it-
selects the harbor master from a list of 3 names submitted by the Harbor Management Commission. So in effect, depending on the names the commission submits, the harbor master is selected by the Harbor Management Commission. And maybe the deputy is also just, I don't remember that.
I think it's the same. So when we made the decision to go to online mooring last year, we said that we would like Eric or Charles to take an active role on the water. And he hasn't had to do any, he hasn't touched the database. He hasn't done anything with that this year. And apparently he hasn't, I don't know him going on the water, but we can follow up with him. He's not going to go on the water, then he should resign his position.
I agree. I'm not sure what, since I've become a commission member, I'm being honest, I found him very argumentative and not agreeable or offering up to do extra to help us with database kind of needs, and that maybe in the past he was before I came onto the commission, but of late, the last 2 years, I'm just not sure what the heck he does.
Well, he did play a crucial role with the data management and supporting Eric with that system, but that's no longer in place, and he's washed his hands of it. So he still maintains the. He made some changes to the website for you, but that's pretty minor.
In defense,
It was super minor.
I could take care of that. Yes, we can just need to get the passwords.
Charles has done a good job supporting the harbor master in the paperwork and the computer program. He wrote the database. He wrote all the stuff that we're using to that we're going to replace with online mooring. So I think the role that he assumed based on his skill set, I think he did a good job. We never pressed him to really get out on the water. So I think that his role may be dwindling based on online moorings, but I think that the actual, until the data is completely switched over to online moorings, I think we need to be a little bit careful about how we handle the data that we have right now that's in his database.
But I thought we were using his database.
Can I break in, please?
Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
This is Paul. I haven't said much tonight, but I think I have to butt in at this part of the discussion. I really think we should table this discussion until Charles is present. Yeah, I've heard some comments that could be taken the wrong way, and he should be here to defend himself and explain what his role is. So I would recommend we table this until he and Eric are present.
Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Joe.
The activity at Sandy Point, I think it was on Labor Day and again Sunday, I think it was, huge congregation of boats. I think on Labor Day there was a band out there on a barge or something like that. I happened to be over on a property overlooking it. I wasn't on a boat, but I could see very clearly things going on. There had to be at least 100 boats, maybe more, which is not bad. It's concerning. It was like a big giant. It looked at from the vantage point that I was on, a very big party. I was concerned about congregation in this time of the COVID and what responsibility we have if there is a fact a big party going on a beach that's within our jurisdiction. If we should be aware of that, if we should be in a position to make sure that the governor's requirements are met for the safety of everyone. While it's not a boating thing per se, people are getting there by boat. They're entertaining by boat. There are hundreds of people there, and from where my vantage point was, I wasn't right there. It didn't look like a very safe environment. And I'm just asking the question, really. I mean, do we have a responsibility when it's a public beach, water-oriented, boat-oriented, to be aware of it and to have any authority over it?
My guess is we don't have the authority to do anything about it, according to the Stonington police. Any kind of an infraction like that, the police have to take care of it. The harbor master can't do a thing.
Even though it's, the people are there on the water, going from boat to boat and doing the whole thing.
If somebody goes through the harbor at 90 miles an hour, Eric can't do a damn thing but call up the Stonington police.
So it's the default is the police in any event where something that appears any kind of a potential violation, that's the default for Eric, other than to go over and sort of flex a little bit and say, let's move on. If they don't want to, they don't have to.
I wouldn't put Eric in. I went by in my boat and I saw the crowd and what they were doing. I wouldn't put Eric in that position to approach anyone, because I think he would have been in physical harm.
Eric was on the water during that event. He and I did
was
talk
there.
about
He was
that a little bit today.
Yeah, he was right next to me. I saw him.
Yeah, I saw,
Okay, so
event. Yeah.
his goal was to try to make sure people were staying clear of the channel and to push people off to the north, up to the south. But he said it basically was a controlled crowd. He didn't see a lot of problems. The actual sequence of events, the way he described it to me, was the group that wanted to do a concert approached Rhode Island first to do it on Napatri. And they said no. West Philly police said no. So then they apparently approached Stonington, and Stonington police said no. So then they asked the question, how about if we just have a boat playing a guitar? And the answer is yeah. I mean, there's not much you can do about that. So they downgraded what they apparently were trying to do, which is similar to what happened in Father's Day in June, to just apparently a couple people out on a boat playing guitars and playing music. It's awful hard to really police against that because they didn't really violate anything.
Right. Well, I think it's just something to be aware of. It's pretty frightening times we live in right now, and I don't want us to be exposed to anything as commissioners that we could be criticized for. I just think we should be aware of it.
Well, just to be safe. All right, Joe, you feel better?
I feel a lot better now.
So do I.
They had similar issues this past week in the Mystic River, and the Stonington police couldn't do anything about it. They weren't following any of the COVID rules and on the water, but the Stonington police were addressing issues on land, from what I read in numerous articles in the paper.
Mm-hmm.
So they couldn't do anything in this situation at Sandy Point either, I don't think, being on the water.
Right. I mean, I guess the Coast Guard was at the event over Labor Day. If you have events of certain size, you're supposed to get permits from the I think from the state and the Coast Guard, or regattas and different types of events, but they have to be of a certain size, certain number of boats.
Yeah, I think the requirement in the state of Connecticut, anyways, right now is you can't have an outside event of in excess of 50 people. You just can't. You're not supposed to have it. It's not a matter of permitting it. You're not supposed to have it. It's kind of weird when you have people in a boating situation, and again, it's a police situation. It's not our direct situation, other than as observer and reporter, possibly.
Right.
Well, I don't want to beat this to death, Joe, but I think it kind of goes back to our issue on the slow no wake zone, and that is, unless there's an ordinance, they really can't issue a citation. And there has to be an ordinance that has a description of it with a fine that goes along with it, which is what forced us into this whole issue of the slow no wake zone, that we can't really just enforce it without it ending up in our plan and our ordinance. So unless the state comes up with an ordinance that says you cannot do this, there's basically CDC guidelines right now, and each state has their own guidelines. It's recommendations. I don't think there's anything that anybody can do about anything.
I don't know if the state has made a executive order and has put enforcement provisions in place for that or not. I don't know. Like Jess said before, either way, it's up to the police department to enforce it. We wouldn't play any role in that, nor would the harbor master.
All right. Okay.
All right. Okay. Any other new business discussion? Anybody, maybe one of our call-in users can make a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Paul.
Okay, Paul seconded. All right. Any discussion?
No.
Okay. All those in favor of adjournment? Aye.
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 All right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Hey, good night.
Have a nice
Good night, Paul.
evening.
Thank you, Melanie, for making the connection.
Oh, yeah. I'll let you know next meeting. Bye.
Bye.